Just ahead, there's another edition of the Florida Roundtable, a service of Florida's Talk and Entertainment Networks. I'm Reagan Smith, Public Affairs Director of the Florida News Network.
I'm Executive Producer Michael Yaffee.
Michael, a pleasure to be with you again this week. And it is boat show time in Miami. We're going to spend a few minutes down there having a look at one of the largest in the entire country. And then we're going to talk about news coverage and the President of the United States. Yes, we've heard a lot about it, but we have a large organization that has just completed a very vast media study of the amount of time and content devoted to the current president. Somewhat shocking. Stay put. The Florida Roundtable begins following these messages.
What are you passionate about? Important questions for the millennial generation. Sadly, they've gotten a bad rap, often described as apathetic or self-centered. But I think it's more a question of purpose. In the story of David and Goliath, the Israeli army was outmatched and taunted by Goliath, a giant of a man. Then David, a young, inexperienced shepherd boy, showed up. Before long, he was so outraged by Goliath's taunting, he risked his own life by moving from the sidelines to the front lines to fight this giant. David took action passionately and overcame that giant challenge. I challenge you to put God before work, hobbies, friends, and even family. Imagine what would happen if this next big generation pursued God with a passion before all else. Millennials could become another truly great generation in American history. This is Bryant Wright, speaking right from my heart.
Want to fly somewhere? Looking for cheap flights or cheap tickets? Then call. That's right. Call the low-cost airline travel hotline now for prices so low we can't publish them anywhere. Low-cost airlines has all kinds of cheap travel deals. Fly domestically and save up to 75%. You can even fly internationally and save even more. Yes, fly anywhere in the world and save a lot of money on your plane tickets. We'll even save you money with cheap travel deals on hotels, rental cars, even complete travel packages. So don't book your tickets until you call us first for the absolute cheapest prices on U.S. and international airline tickets and hotels. Call right now for prices so low they can't be published. Travel experts are here 24/7 to help. 800-754-4531. 800-754-4531. 800-754-4531. That's 800-754-4531.
This is the Florida Roundtable, a service of Florida's Talk and Entertainment Networks. I'm Reagan Smith, Public Affairs Director of the Florida News Network.
And I'm Executive Producer Michael Yaffee.
Michael, always a pleasure to be with you in these quarters, and a busy hour ahead of us today. But in the early going here, we want to start off in the state, at home in Florida here.
Yes.
Governor Ron DeSantis, not in office very long, but already lots and lots of changes and departures from where Governor Rick Scott was. Both Republicans, both conservatives, but a lot of changes in the wind already.
He seems to have a lot of guts to do things that Rick Scott kind of talked about but never really did.
Yeah.
It seems like Ron DeSantis, at least in the beginning, is actually going to make these changes, especially dealing with education.
Yeah. We were talking about this, and that is he wants Common Core to go away.
Yeah.
Now, that's a pet peeve from Jeb Bush and all,
right,
for a long time now. And there's lots of pros and cons to this thing. But apparently the governor is, it looks as though he's going to have his way with this, and Common Core is going to disappear.
He said it was one of the biggest complaints that he got on the campaign trail dealing with education. And he said he promised he would get rid of it. And he's keeping that promise. Now, we have to remember it's not called Common Core anymore here. Right. It's called Florida Standards.
Right.
But it's pretty much the same thing. And sure. He's, through executive order, trying to implement some new stuff.
Yeah. I was thinking about what he is doing, and it occurred to me that there are some comparisons historically how these things happen. And that, some of the, he's increasing the budget for the Everglades preservation, conservation areas, much more spending.
Got bipartisan support for that.
Yeah. increasing spending on education,
Yeah.
things that, as you say, Rick Scott talked about, but didn't necessarily happen in any significant way. And the Democrats were always after him to do this and do that. And here's Governor DeSantis doing things that the Democrats have been calling for years, maybe. And so now they say, well, it's still not enough. But he's doing it. And I find it interesting. He's stealing the Democrats' clothes.
Yeah.
While he's only been in office here a very short time.
In some things he is, not everything.
No.
Medical marijuana is another one.
Yeah.
He wants to basically make it legal to smoke medical marijuana. Thinks that's what the amendment basically was calling for.
Yeah.
Some Republicans fought against that. Democrats were for it, and he's saying it's time to stop that and let people smoke it if they have to, with doctor permission, of course.
I thought it was interesting to see John Morgan giving the governor a big pat on the back.
Yeah, I mean, I really think this is a lot of smart moves. I think he's going to be reelected. If this continues, it's obviously very early, but I think he'll be reelected a lot easier than he was first elected if this continues.
And you have gotten to the conclusion that's exactly where I was headed by saying that he's stealing some of the Democrats' clothes. What are they going to have left to campaign on?
Higher taxes.
Yeah, if he does these things, that's about it. And that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So if he can find ways to do this increased spending without raising taxes, I'm with you 100%. The second term will come very easily.
He says he can. We'll see what happens. One thing he is dealing with education. I know you'll like this a lot because you are a professor. He wants more civics education taught in the grade school level.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's vital.
Absolutely. When I see them on the college level, you wonder, what did they learn, if anything, about civics in high school and younger?
I mean, they're only taught one semester of it in high school. I was taught government senior year, one semester, not even a full year.
And that is not enough.
Of course not.
You scratch the surface, and a very light scratch when you come right down to it, So we'll have to see how that goes. But yes, I am absolutely in favor of that. And for people who don't believe it, come on down and sit in on some of my classes and observe, and listen to the responses. Well, as they say, a day in politics can be a lifetime. And we've got 3 3/4 years to go, so we'll see how this happens. But we pause here and remind you that you're listening to the Florida Roundtable. I'm Reagan Smith.
I'm Michael Yaffee.
And we'll continue our conversation in a moment.
Where do you want to go on a vacation or honeymoon? The Caribbean, Europe, Hawaii, Mexico? How about Disney or a cruise? At Superior Cruise and Travel, we've got you covered. We'll assign you your own travel concierge. They'll help you design a custom vacation plan that you can't find online. And the service is completely free. You can't compare the value of this to any other online travel company. We can help you plan a custom vacation anywhere in the world. We even offer payment plans with no credit card required. Now you pay off your vacation on your time schedule. Call now and mention the promo code RADIO and save up to $500. Book your custom trip. Call Superior Cruise and Travel now and talk to one of the highest rated travel agencies in the country with a 5-star A+ online rating.
800-659-5087. 800-659-5087. 800-659-5087. That's 800-659-5087.
In a world of tiny tomatoes and backyard pests, one man and his better half dig deep to save backyard gardens.
Joni, stand by to upload expert videos.
Already loaded, Tom.
Wow, you're good.
You're not so bad yourself.
Tom and Joni McCubbin star in hisandhersgardening.com. Critics rave.
Tom and Joni, they really grow on you.
2 green thumbs up.
Don't miss hisandhersgardening.com.
Wow, your flowers are gorgeous. What's your secret?
It's no secret. It's Bare Advanced.
You mean these blue bottles?
Uh-huh. I protect my beauties with all-in-one rose and flower care. It's insect and disease control plus fertilizer.
Really? What's this 12-month tree and shrub protect and feed?
Oh, I use it on my trees. It kills bugs for up to a year, plus it feeds. It's that easy. Hey, where are you going?
To get my own. I want a great yard, too.
Bare Advanced. Get more from the blue bottle. Always read and follow label instructions.
We are back. You're listening to the Florida Roundtable, a service of Florida's Talk and Entertainment Networks. I'm Reagan Smith.
And I'm Michael Yaffee.
And Michael, we are off to the Miami area where we are joined by Mr. Larry Berryman. It is that time of year, one of the biggest boat shows in all of the United States, the Miami Boat Show, about to get underway. And Larry, welcome to the Florida Roundtable.
Michael, Reagan, thanks for having me.
Well, am I correct in that it seemed to me we visited a couple of years back here, and I seem to recall that the Miami Boat Show has been one of the biggest in the United States for some time now.
Yeah, I would even go further. It's one of the biggest in the world, certainly from a recreational standpoint. The collection of boats that we have on site, not only in water but upland, and all the marine accessories, the electronics manufacturers, all the retail vendors. It's one of the largest gatherings of recreational boating anywhere in the world.
That is very impressive. Now, before we get into, the location and the days and the times and availabilities and how to obtain tickets, let's start there, and we can come back and do that again before we part company.
Okay, so we go over the nuts and bolts first.
Yeah.
Well, certainly. The show is February 14th through February 18th. Our hours are 10 to 6 daily, so 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. each day. Tickets, show information, travel information, parking, anything and everything you could learn about the show is available on our website, which is miamiboatshow.com.
All right. Now,
including tickets can be purchased on the website, and or you could purchase them at the box office once you arrive.
And one of the nice things about this is that it is a very affordable show. Tickets are not outrageous.
No, we have different levels of tickets. There's a premiere day, which is a little bit more because it's the first day of the show, first opportunity to go and see and take a look at all the beautiful new products. Then Friday through Monday, our ticket price actually drops to $25, so it's a very reasonable ticket. Ticket also includes, once you purchase your ticket, free transportation back and forth to the show via shuttle bus or water taxi. So it's a really nice opportunity to take advantage of our infrastructure, park in one of our park and rides, jump on a water taxi, and have a boat ride over to the show and back. So really, for $25, it's hard to beat the experience.
I was going to say, yeah. Talk for a minute or two here about the economic impact that a show like this has.
Well, it's hard to believe, and these numbers have been quantified by professionals who put together studies and track economic impacts for these type of shows. The last economic impact, which was conducted 2 years ago, saw that the show brought nearly $850 million in economic activity to South Florida. That's almost 2 Super Bowls. And we do this show every year in South Florida. This is our 4th year at the Miami Marine Stadium Park and Basin. But the economic impact when it comes to hotels and travel and restaurants and marinas and everything that has ties to this show, it's overwhelming. I mean, tens of thousands of people travel to South Florida for a 5-day boating event, and they're staying in hotels and eating at the local restaurants and buying products at these shows that are then taken to local marinas, and the gas stations are active, and everything else, anything that has a tentacle or something attached to this marine industry benefits from this 5-day boating event. So it really is. It's almost, when you add up all the numbers, it's almost $1 billion in economic activity in 5 days. So tremendous numbers.
So I'm someone who has been on a boat several times, but I've never actually driven a boat or owned a boat. Why would someone like me want to go to this show?
Well, if you even have a little bit of an appetite, I should say, for getting into boating, the boat show is the perfect place because you have boats ranging from 9 feet to 90 feet. There's a boat for every budget. There's an opportunity to take a look at everything the marine industry has to offer. Whether you're a seasoned boater or someone that's just getting into it, we have a Discover Boating area we have professionals that can talk to you about the steps to getting into boating. We even have on-the-water training presented by Boat US that you can sign up for a 3-hour boating course for a very fair price that is inclusive of the ticket to the show. And you'll spend 3 hours on the water with a licensed captain going over the ins and the outs of learning how to operate a vessel. So for someone that may be just a little intimidated, I've never been on the water, I'd really like to see what this is all about, they could sign up for a Boat US on the water instructional class. Or there's classroom opportunities as well on the campus. So take the 1,400 boats that are on display, the thousands of accessories, the great food and beverage, the opportunity to meet thousands of people from all over the world. You don't have to be a boater to enjoy the show, but certainly if you're looking to get into boating, this is a great place to start.
Now, let me ask you, this is, of course, you say boats, and Mike said, well, he never drove one. And we're talking about power boats here, but I go back a lot of years on the water. I grew up close to Lake Erie and had a close friend that had a 50-foot sailboat that slept 6 comfortably. What about those people who are into the sailing? Is there going to be a section of sailboats?
Yes, and good news for you and everybody else who is an avid sailor. Last year, we moved our strictly sail portion of the show that used to be location into the basin. So now you have a combination of sail, power, and catamarans all under one beautiful campus, or one part of one beautiful campus. We have over 70 sail boats and sailing accessory vendors on the east side of our campus, specifically for the boats on Pier number 9. There's some on 8, but most of the sailboats and the catamarans that we've added to the show are on the east side, Piers 8 and 9. And we have a Sailor's Cove that's filled with sailing accessory vendors, sailing manufacturers, and other sail-related companies that will help support the show and help be there for our sailing enthusiasts. So it's really the greatest collection of sail and power all in one area. So if you're looking for power, we have it. If you're looking for sail, we have it. If you're looking for power cats and sail cats, we have that as well. So it's really nice to be able to see everything under, in one campus.
I'm looking at your website right now, and it is miamiboatshow.com, right?
That's correct.
I noticed that you have a VIP experience available for some people. Can you talk a little bit about what that entails?
Sure. We've added a VIP experience here at the Miami Boat Show the last couple of years, and we continue to improve upon it. This year, Porsche came on as a sponsor for our VIP experience. It's an elevated experience for our attendees. It does cost $175 to get into the lounge on the first day, then $150 from Friday through Monday. But with that comes entry to the show, exclusive amenities, unlimited food and drink, the opportunity to take part in an air-conditioned lounge and a nice deck that overlooks the east side of the marina. And once a patron purchases their VIP ticket, they can come and go from the VIP experience all day. So there's other amenities and other partners in there that will be providing guests with some nice amenities as they visit the VIP section. But it's for someone who's looking for a way to kind of get away from everybody. There's a limited number of tickets that are available for the VIP lounge, but it's a really nice opportunity to kind of sit back, relax, enjoy the show, fill up on beautiful food and drinks, and, really have that elevated experience that some people are really looking for.
Now, while we're talking about that elevated experience, I just had a flashback. The late William F. Buckley had a yacht that he kept in Miami most of his adult life, and Mr. Buckley had a grand piano in the main salon of his yacht. Talk about high end. Are we gonna and the dreamers that show up? I could afford a canoe maybe, but can we walk around and when we see these big yachts that sometimes are used for commercial fishing or whatnot, or just the private ones with the glamour attached to them?
Well, excellent question. We have nearly 1,400 boats on display, perhaps a few more at last count. But we have motor yachts that are ranging from 40 feet to 90 feet that could fit the grand piano that you're describing. There certainly is a huge collection of fishing boats, center consoles, family boats. But if you are looking for the motor yachts, we do have a nice collection, mostly on the east side of the marina as well, between Piers 6, 7, 8, and 9, that would certainly fit that bill. The overall, makeup of the show is really this is the heart of the recreational boating industry. In 90 feet can be found at the Miami International Boat Show. And not only found, but you have the opportunity to speak to the manufacturers and the dealers who are representing these boats. So you really have an opportunity not just to see it, but take a tour of the boat, go inside the boat, take a look, and see if that grand piano that you were talking about can fit. But I guarantee there's a handful of boats on site that can accommodate a piano.
It seems like as well you're not just showing off boats that people can buy, but you have exhibits that show off some new innovations dealing with the boating industry.
And that's really a major component of the show is our accessory component, whether it's marine electronics, retail, fishing products. There's a wide variety of manufacturers that support the industry, build products for boats, build products for anglers, build products for anybody who is involved in ski and tow sports. So if you're looking for anything that goes along with the boat, any accessories, chances are there'll be a dealer or a manufacturer on site. And if we're talking about like the latest and greatest, certainly in Tent C, which is one of our primary tents on the upland portion of the show, there is a electronics pavilion. And if you're looking for the latest and greatest in depth finders or sonars or being able to take a look at the latest weather, the Marine Electronics Pavilion has the latest and greatest electronics that really, in the last couple of years, the electronics manufacturers using them so user-friendly that it's remarkable what you can put even in a small boat now as far as GPS, weather-related functionality, sonar-related functionality. So if you're looking for the latest and greatest marine electronics, you'll find it at the Miami International Boat Show.
A veritable smorgasbord regarding life on the water, as it were. You actually kind of answered my next question, because I was going to say to you, well, someone who is listening to this program in Pensacola, why would they want to get in the car and drive down to Miami to see this?
Why not? Miami's beautiful in February.
Well,
so I would say, I mean, certainly we have attendees that come from all over the 50 states, over 30 countries across the world. Pensacola, although be it far, or Jacksonville, or anywhere up and down the east and west coast of Florida, it's worth the drive. Now, if you're only going to be there for a couple hours, I suggest book a hotel room, spend a couple nights in Miami, enjoy the nightlife, enjoy the boat show. There's a lot to see at the show.
All right. Larry, real quickly here, the dates and the hours again.
Dates and hours. February 14th through the 18th. We're open daily from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
And that is the Miami Boat Show, one of the largest in the entire world. Larry, thank you for being with us this day.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
The Florida Roundtable continues in a moment.
Are you tired of high cable TV rates? Sign up for Dish today and get a $500 bonus offer while supplies last. Plus, lock in your price for 2 years guaranteed. Call All American Dish, your Dish authorized retailer now.
800-405-2561. 800-405-2561. That's 800-405-2561. Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and e-auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
An opioid overdose does not need to end in tragedy. At-home rescue treatments like naloxone products can help you save the life of a friend or a loved one. Naloxone is available without a prescription and doesn't need to be administered by a health professional. Learn to recognize the signs of an overdose, like unresponsiveness, snoring sounds, and shallow breathing, and be prepared for an emergency by keeping a naloxone product on hand. Find out more at isavefl.com. Brought to you by the Florida Department of Children and Families.
Florida's boating environment is always changing. New sunsets, new experiences that you won't find anywhere else on Earth. But one thing that never changes: boating while impaired by drugs or alcohol. It's illegal in the state of Florida. Boating under the influence will land you in jail, or worse, kill someone you love. It's just simply not a risk worth taking. Learn more about Florida's boating laws at myfwc.com. Brought to you by the FWC Division of Law Enforcement.
Your yard's days of being picked on are over, thanks to the science of Behr Advanced Brush Killer Plus. Its penetrating formula is specifically designed to kill hard-to-control brush, like kudzu, poison ivy, poison oak, and wild berries, roots and all. And the concentrate product even kills stumps, so your yard never has to worry about being bullied. Behr Advanced. Get more from the blue bottle. BearAdvance.com. Always read and follow label directions.
Terrorist acts and shootings are often described as great tragedies. They are not. We live in a world so concerned with being politically correct that they're afraid to call evil what it is, evil. Man's sin nature is as old as the Garden of Eden. Many love to blame culture, poverty, or lack of education and opportunity as the problem. They may have a good or bad impact, but the big problem is sin. Acknowledging our sin nature will show us our need for a Savior who changes us from within. That Savior's name is Jesus. He came to die for the sins of all who will acknowledge their sin. Faith in Him strikes a mighty blow at evil. So quit calling man's evil acts a tragedy. They are evil and God hates it. Yet thankfully He loves us in spite of our evil and sin. Jesus not only forgives us, but gives us the want to overcome evil with good. This is Brian Wright, speaking right from my heart.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, you want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
From Pensacola to Key West and all points in between, you're listening to the Florida Roundtable, a service of Florida's Talk and Entertainment Networks. I'm Reagan Smith.
And I'm Michael Yaffee.
And Michael, at this point in the program, we are joined by Rich Noyes of the Media Research Center. Some interesting observations and research that has been recently completed. And Rich, welcome to the Florida Roundtable.
Well, thanks so much for having me.
As we get started here, a couple of things I'd like you to do. Number one, tell us a little bit about yourself, your educational background, and how you came to be involved in the MRC. And then explain for our listeners exactly what the MRC is, okay?
Well, sure. My personal background is political science. I've got a master's in government from Georgetown University, and I've been working at various institutions doing analysis of news coverage of politics since the 1980s. I think it's actually very important to understanding how politics works, to understand that most voters and citizens are getting their news filtered through the media. They're not experiencing politics directly. And, you know, that the way the media choose to cover things or not cover things, what emphasis they put on different things, that has a great impact on how our political system has evolved over in the mass media age. The Media Research Center has been working on the same set of issues since the 1980s. I joined them in 1999. Our founder, Brent Bozell, was very interested in how the media's liberal bias was hamstringing conservatives and giving them not a fair shake when it came to the public policy debates of the 80s and the 90s, and that is something that we continue to do to this very day. Our primary vehicle is our blog called Newsbusters, where we can do things that were never possible when we first started, which is we can write stories in real time about what's going on television and post the video clips we're talking about so that it's available for the public to see what we're talking about. It's not just here's a transcript, take our word for it. You can watch it yourself. You can see what we're talking about, and I think it's been very helpful to spreading our message about how the media are trying to turn our politics.
Now, you have recently completed a really large research project here on media coverage of the office of the president. And we want you to begin by outlining that research and how it was done and the results, and then we'll talk about it.
Right. I don't think it will surprise anybody. I think if you've been following politics, you know that Donald Trump has sort of become the center of attention since the middle of the year 2015, when he started out as a Republican presidential candidate. But the coverage of President Trump since he took office has been more than any president that I can remember, and I've been doing this for over 30 years. It has been as negative, as fiercely negative as any that I can imagine. I mean, there's a great aversion to him amongst the media elites. Looking specifically at 2018, we went through ABC, CBS, and NBC, although I think you can extrapolate out to cable news, particularly the liberal cable networks, and get very similar results, just with far more coverage. But even on just those three broadcast evening newscasts, which is all that we can do comprehensively, we looked at the spin of that coverage. 90% of it was negative. Our measure excludes the partisan back and forth. This is not Republicans saying Trump is great or Trump saying he's great, or Democrats criticizing him. This is not Democratic criticism at all. It is the criticism of reporters, anchors, the experts they bring on, the man on the street. That's what builds the climate of journalistic spin. And again, it's been about as negative as I can ever remember. 90% in 2017, 90% in 2018. It is I think also remarkable to note that even though the press coverage was that against him in 2018, the president's poll ratings actually didn't seem to move one bit. They went from about 40%, according to the Real Clear Politics average at the beginning of 2018, to about 43% at the end of 2018. Now they've come back down to about 40% again because of the shutdown. But again, with all this drama, with all of this soap opera, with all of this criticism, his public opinion ratings are actually very stable, which I think tells you a lot about our polarized country and about the media not having the impact that they used to have, even though they're as ferocious as ever.
Now, when you say media or mainstream media, what outlets specifically are you talking about?
Well, we're looking at ABC. This study looked at ABC, CBS, NBC, just the evening newscasts. I think that you can extrapolate to like-minded organizations, CNN, MSNBC, the big elite East Coast newspapers. I don't think this is, talk radio certainly is not, does not have a similar take on the news or a similar spin. I think Fox News is different than this. I think the internet, is something that has a great amount of information on it, some of which is news, some of which is not news, but which goes in all kinds of different directions. So I think, it's what people regarded as sort of the elite establishment media in the 70s, 80s, and 90s that sort of formed that gatekeeper effect. That's broken down a little bit. People are getting their news outside of those sort of old media lines, but I think that's still what people look to influence them, and that's really who we're talking about, is sort of that elite media.
Now, one of the things that I found interesting in this is the amount of time. You also looked at the amount of time given to coverage of the Trump administration. And while it has dropped a little bit from the first year, it is still a huge chunk of the media coverage that you're looking at here.
That's right. It's I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I believe it's about a quarter to a third of the coverage on the evening newscast every month for, since January of 2017 has been about the president, the presidency, and the issues he's talking about. That compares to about 10% of the news being about the Obama administration and President Obama in 2015 and 2016. So in terms of, that's what we have to compare it with. In terms of historical norms, he has grabbed the center of attention, and he's getting a lot more coverage than your typical president. I think that says a little bit about sort of the media again, the elite media reaction to his presidency, that they think this is exceptional and they're covering it. It also says a little bit about how the president himself has done things. He's not methodically moving through his agenda. He's starting all kinds of things going at the same time, so that that does draw more media coverage itself. So it's partly a partnership between the way the president is governing and the way the media are reacting to it.
When President Trump says that the fake news media is the enemy of the people, how do you react to that?
Well, I think that is a line he uses for his base. I think he's trying to. I think he's trying in his own way to put the bias against him, the bias against his issues, front and center. I think it's an overstatement. I think it's trying to find a way that sort of cuts through a lot of the rhetoric to say that they have an agenda. They're not as objective as they purport to be. But I don't think it's a fair statement, on its face value. I don't think the press are the enemy of the people. They're trying to do their job, but they're doing it in a way that is always been more helpful to one party than the other, or at least this sort of elite media that we're talking about. I think most of his supporters sort of get that. I don't see any pitchfork mobs out there going after reporters, but I think it's typical exaggeration in political rhetoric.
And I think that works on both sides of the street as well. I find myself looking at the networks that you had talked about occasionally, but many times I hear the reporters talking about and saying just that some of the president's statements aren't true or they're not factual, and then I don't hear them say how they know that, or where did they get the information that allows them to say that the president hasn't told the truth or isn't getting his facts straight. How much did you study how much of that goes on?
It's folded into our larger number. I mean, that's part of the sort of relentlessly negative drumbeat. And I think there's two reactions to that. One, sometimes when they say what the president's saying isn't true, they're really saying they don't agree with it. That there's a debate about some fact, and he's emphasizing something that they don't want to emphasize. Sometimes he is saying something that isn't factually true. He's saying it more rhetorically, or he's just saying something that's incorrect. But presidents and politicians have been saying wrong things or even false things for a long time, and it's a question of, do you want to sort of point that out every day, day in and day out?
Rich, I tell you what, hang on, we'll let you come back and finish that up, but the clock caught us here. We've got to take a pause along the network line, and we must remind folks that they are listening to the Florida Roundtable. It is a service of Florida's Talk and Entertainment Networks. I'm Reagan Smith.
I'm Michael Yaffee.
And from the Media Research Center, our special guest, Rich Noyes, will continue in a moment.
For Florida families facing the challenge of a loved one with an opioid use disorder, it's important to know that shallow breathing, snoring, or gurgling sounds and unresponsiveness can all be signs of an overdose. In the event of an emergency, an at-home rescue treatment like naloxone can help save a life. Naloxone is available without a prescription and doesn't need to be administered by a health professional. Find out more at isavefl.com. Brought to you by the Florida Department of Children and Families.
Do you know someone with a drug or alcohol problem? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything. Stop the drug and alcohol nightmare. Are drug and alcohol problems hitting you too close to home? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything.
800-707-9709. 800-707-9709. That's 800-707-9709.
What are you passionate about? Important questions for the millennial generation. Sadly, they've gotten a bad rap, often described as apathetic or self-centered. But I think it's more a question of purpose. In the story of David and Goliath, the Israeli army was outmatched and taunted by Goliath, a giant of a man. Then David, a young, inexperienced shepherd boy, showed up. Before long, he was so outraged by Goliath's taunting, he risked his own life by moving from the sidelines to the front lines to fight this giant. David took action passionately and overcame that giant challenge. I challenge you to put God before work, hobbies, friends, and even family. Imagine what would happen if this next big generation pursued God with a passion before all else. Millennials could become another truly great generation in American history. This is Bryant Wright, speaking right from my heart.
We are back. You're listening to the Florida Roundtable, a service of Florida's Talk and Entertainment Networks. I'm Reagan Smith.
And I'm Michael Yaffee.
And our very special guest in this part of the program is Richard Noyes. He is with the Media Research Center. They have a brand new study out on the national media coverage of the Trump administration, and some of it pretty shocking about how high the negative numbers are and whatnot. And I had asked you, Rich, just before we went into that last break, about the proof, if you will. Reporters saying, oh, the president's not telling the truth, or this is wrong and that's wrong, and then not citing their facts or sources for saying that the president is not telling the truth. And you didn't quite get a chance to finish that answer, and I want to let you do that.
Yeah, I was just going to add to what I said earlier that, you had President Obama, who was given PolitiFact's Lie of the Year for his statement, if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Well, that was something that was very consequential to passing Obamacare. And yet, even after he was sort of given that tag by PolitiFact, that didn't really color news coverage. I mean, that wasn't something that was talked about even that night on the news or the next morning. It was something that was sort of skipped over because it didn't fit the larger narrative. So I think you have some things that are reasonable to point out. You have some things where the press is going out of their way to stress it. And sometimes I think it's not really factual issues but disagreements. But you put all that together, and it's sort of become this larger media mantra that, the president is somebody who embellishes facts. Well, I think it's pretty obvious that he has a way of talking and speaking that is much more aspirational and salesman-like than utterly factual and dry and boring. He would say it's boring, but the press is also taking exception to it in a way they haven't with other politicians with their rhetoric that sort of cuts corners or goes beyond the strict facts.
Do you have any recent examples of a story that maybe the media focused on that was anti-Trump or something that they wouldn't have done with past presidents or didn't cover another half of the story?
Well, I'm not sure about recent because the most recent thing we have is the shutdown, and clearly that was the dominant news story of January of this year. But I think that would have been covered in any administration. The interesting thing we noticed in coverage of the shutdown is, total that got about 300 minutes of coverage. But less than a quarter of that, or only actually a little bit more than a quarter of that, only about a quarter of it was actually about the border wall dispute. So it was a way to sort of, the coverage was, the entire incident was stimulated by the border wall dispute, but it was almost pushed aside by the press wanted to talk about the shutdown itself, the consequences on federal workers. And I think that sort of shows you how difficult it is to sort of use the shutdown tactic to sort of change public opinion on a topic because the actual underlying issue was given so little coverage compared to the whole amount.
Now, as you pointed out, President Trump is outspoken and he uses social media like no other president ever has. It's a brand new thing. But do we have any hope? And it's become, your research is showing this, we are being more and more divided and the coverage is more and more negative. Is there any hope that could possibly change?
I'm not sure. I think it has a lot more to do with the future of the press and where the press is going than it does any individual politician. You can see the tactics of politics is changing and becoming more of this direct communication using social media. The press itself does not, the three broadcast networks used to hold a majority of the audience at dinner time. Now it's It's still about 25 million people per night. It's bigger than cable news, but they don't speak to the large group they used to. It's becoming more and more fractured. So I think you're seeing different news outlets speaking more and more to people who like their editorial spin. They're putting more editorial spin into their product. And I think that's bad for politics. We're never going to be sort of sharing the same conversation like we used to 10 or 20 or 30 years ago. But I hope that there's a place for, underlying all of that, sort of an objective, factual news reporting that at least gets us all on the same page when it comes to facts, and then we can debate about what they mean and what it all means. But it's going to take some work on the part of the press, and I think a little bit on the part of politicians, but this is mostly, I think, a press issue.
It seems like anytime you bring up to those on the left that the media is biased, they will bring up in return Fox News and say Fox News is biased in the other direction too much. How would you react to that?
Well, I think Fox News has a different editorial line than the others. I think there was a Pew Research Center study. It was either a Pew study or a Harvard study at the beginning of the Trump administration that actually had Fox's coverage of the president at about 50-50, whereas the other networks were more 80 to 90% negative, sort of matching what we found. You put all that together, that was actually Harvard. Tom Patterson did that study. You look at that, is 50-50, sort of the goal for the press? I think it even with something as divisive as the Trump presidency, you want that so that people are getting both sides and let them figure it out. I tend to think that when you have a lot of outlets echoing the same spin, they can sort of convince themselves that they're right, that they're in the correct frame of mind. It's probably something that is trying to go too far to sort of make the bottom line value judgments instead of just putting out the facts and letting citizens and voters make that decision themselves.
Now, Rich, what would you hope that those who have seen this study and hear this program, what do you want them to take away from this information?
Well, they should understand, if they haven't already, that this is a different news environment. We have a very adversarial press when it comes to this president, and you're not getting necessarily the full and complete story. You need to get your news from lots of different sources. So I would say, don't get news that you agree with. Don't get news, that you disagree with and get frustrated. Get it from all sides and use your own judgment. That's the most important thing that anybody can do.
And your work in studies like this is ongoing.
It is, and I expect it'll be a busy time going into 2020, the presidential election.
Indeed, it will, and we hope to get you back in here and update us on these things. But thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to visit with us this day. Rich Noyes at MRC. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This is the Florida Roundtable. I'm Reagan Smith.
I'm Michael Yaffee.
And Michael and I back with a closing thought following these messages.
What are you passionate about? Important questions for the millennial generation. Sadly, they've gotten a bad rap, often described as apathetic or self-centered. But I think it's more a question of purpose. In the story of David and Goliath, the Israeli army was outmatched and taunted by Goliath, a giant of a man. Then David, a young, inexperienced shepherd boy, showed up. Before long, he was so outraged by Goliath's taunting, he risked his own life by moving from the sidelines to the front lines to fight this giant. David took action passionately and overcame that giant challenge. I challenge you to put God before work, hobbies, friends, and even family. Imagine what would happen if this next big generation pursued God with a passion before all else. Millennials could become another truly great generation in American history. This is Bryant Wright, speaking right from my heart.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go. And pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines.
800-754-4531. 800-754-4531. That's 800-754-4531.
The Progressive Miami International Boat Show and Miami Yacht Show present the largest display of boats in the world. Classy ones, flashy ones, family ones, fishing ones, and ones unlike any other one. 2 epic shows, 2,000 boats. See them all February 14th through 18th at the Progressive Miami International Boat Show's Miami Marine Stadium location and the Miami Yacht Show in its new downtown location at One Herald Plaza. Visit MiamiBoatShow.com and MiamiYachtShow.com for tickets and info.
In a world of tiny tomatoes and backyard pests, one man and his better half dig deep to save backyard gardens.
Joni, stand by to upload expert videos.
Already loaded, Tom.
Wow, you're good.
You're not so bad yourself.
Tom and Joni McCubbin star in hisandhersgardening.com. Critics rave.
Tom and Joni, they really grow on you. 2 green thumbs up.
Don't miss hisandhersgardening.com.
Employ Florida offers resources and services to help you find employment.
Hi, Gary here. Employ Florida helped me improve my interview skills, plus write a great resume. I attended networking events with many employers and other industry professionals just like me. With the workshops and training found at employflorida.com, I was able to land a great job in my field.
Job resources, real results, hired. EmployFlorida.com. That's EmployFlorida.com.
We are back. You're listening to the Florida Roundtable, a service of Florida's Talk and Entertainment Networks. I'm Reagan Smith.
And I'm Michael Yaffee.
And enjoyed the conversations today. Rich Noyes at the Media Research Center. Always interesting, the numbers that they have. 2018 compared to 2017, the hours spent covering the Trump administration went down, but only a little bit. But the content remained highly negative. And I took his point very well that those who follow the news and want to know what is going on tap into all kinds of different sources so that they can try to get their own balanced presentation or take a choice of what they think is going on.
I mean, that's what I try to do.
Yeah.
I try to do, I lean more towards the right, obviously, but I try a lot of times to read stuff from the left because it gives you more perspective on things.
Yeah, I think it does indeed. I wanted to just mention here quickly, he said, the MRC was founded by Brent Bozell.
Yeah.
Now, Brent Bozell, I mentioned, how's this for a tie-in? When we were talking about the Miami Boat Show, I mentioned William F. Buckley, Jr.
Yeah, you mentioned him, yeah.
Brent Bozell was William F. Buckley's son-in-law.
Oh, I did not know that. I should have known that. I did not know they were related in any way.
Yes.
I mean, I knew who Brent Bozell was, but wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
So in any event, but, and I guess that's, what do we call that? Fair disclosure now?
Yeah.
Brent Bozell and William F. Buckley were related. Michael, you've got a couple of other venues where folks can tap into your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm hosting my own show now, PM Orlando, in the Orlando area. You want to catch the podcast, search on iHeartRadio for PM Orlando.
All right. Well, as always, Michael and I thank you for being with us this day. We know that you have lots of choices out there, and we are delighted when you spend a few minutes with us. This is the Florida Roundtable. I'm Reagan Smith.
I'm Michael Yaffee.
And we'll see you again next week.
You've been listening to the Florida Roundtable, a news and public affairs presentation of the Florida News Network. The views and opinions expressed during this show are solely those of the participants and not necessarily those of this station's management, ownership, or sponsors. Please email your comments to reagansmith@fnnonline.net.